Hello, everybody. Welcome to our free session today. Today, we're going to be discussing the FDA's adoption of ISO 13485 and its impact on the QMS. It's great to be here with all of you. My name is Cindy Haight. I work for SGS as an inside sales representative for the Certification and Training Academy divisions. I've been with SGS just about a year and a half now, and come to you guys with about 20 years of experience in the TIC industry, being testing, inspection, and certification. It's great to be here with everyone. I'd like to introduce our illustrious speaker for today. Here's Mr. Tim Gooch. Gooch is our technical manager for North America. He's in charge of our medical devices, pharma, cosmetics, and personal care divisions. Tim manages our teams. He manages our technical teams for these certifications. Since 2008, he has been our global leader for the MDSAP certification scheme, which reaches into 20 countries around the world. Here's just a little bit about SGS. We are the #1 global leader in the certification business. You can see we employ just shy of 100,000 people globally throughout 2,650 offices and labs, and we work across 11 global industries. You can see that we are rapidly approaching our 150th year in business. We are included in the Knowledge Solutions business line here at SGS, and there's a little explanation about the different services that we offer. In addition to certification and training, you can see we also offer customized audits. We have a great supply chain management tool through SGS Transparency One, and we also offer technical consulting services. The SGS difference, you can see how these three important factors merge together to form the foundation of our ethics here. You can see we have global and local experts within the industries and regulatory associations. You can see that we have a large global network in over 80 countries, and we are an end-to-end business partner for our customers. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Gooch, who's going to lead you through the content. I do want to mention there is a question and answer segment at the end of our session today. You can find the Q&A box on your screen. Please type in your questions there. Also, at the conclusion of the session, after we wrap up, in about a day, you'll receive an email that'll have a link to watch the session on demand, as well as a copy of the slides. So we will be sending that to you probably sometime tomorrow. Thank you again for being here, and I hope you enjoy the session today.
All right. Thank you, Cindy. Appreciate everyone taking the time to attend today's session. I know that everyone's schedules are very hectic and busy, and I just wanted to let you know that I'm a pretty simple guy, simple and straightforward approach to most of the things that I do. Usually if I get too bogged down and getting too detailed, I get lost, and so I try to keep my eye on what the most important things are, and that's what we want to try to focus on today. We're going to talk about an announcement that came around about a year and a half ago by the agency, that they were going to be making some changes to what they called the QS Reg. Most of us in this business call it the QSR. But they said, well, we don't want to get it confused with the quality system record. But I think we all know what we're talking about, and that's 21 CFR 820, which is the regulations for building, executing, establishing, and maintaining a quality management system in order to legally manufacture and distribute medical devices in the United States. And so a quick run through of what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about what has led the FDA to this announcement, the differences in 21 CFR 4, 820, and what they will term the QMSR, what the FDA is saying about the adoption of the QMSR and the pathway to adoption. And then we're going to talk about what was given to me by an important person at the FDA. They're calling them the big deltas, and what they would like to see manufacturers focus on between now and when the QMSR becomes the regulation. So then we'll talk about some of the details moving forward, and then we'll also have, as Cindy said, some time to entertain some questions and hopefully come up with some relatively intelligent answers. So first, let's start with just a quick question. I recognize some of the names and the companies that are represented here, and some of them I'm familiar with, and so I think I know the answer to some of these. At least I do, because you're clients of SGS. But answer this question. Is your organization certified to ISO 13485 currently? And we'll take a look and see how those answers come out. I have a pretty good idea. Okay, more than half of you have responded. So right now, it looks like nearly all of you are certified to the standards, and that's a good thing, because you'll be miles ahead when the quality system regulation makes the switch over to ISO 13485. So let me first mention where a lot of this information comes from. Of course, there's plenty of information online that you can retrieve for yourself about what the FDA has said. They've spoken in public forums. I have a unique opportunity because I've managed MDSAP with SGS for so long. It gave me ready access to some of the people at the FDA. And so in the preparation for this little talk, I contacted Captain Kimberly Lewandowski Walker, who some of you may know and some of you may be familiar with if you've gone through some of the MDSAP training in the past. She is part of the MDSAP team with the FDA, but she also is participating as one of the team members in making the change from the quality system regulation to the quality management system regulation. And I asked her what were the important things that we need to look at, what are the important things that we need to focus on in the time between now and when the final draft is approved. And I asked her, I said, can I mention your name? She said, yeah, you can mention my name, just don't put it in print. So, anyway, but anything that is on these slides or presented are really my own interpretation of what's going on with the agency and the information that I've been able to gather from people that I know on the inside. So let's look at some recent history. In February of 2022, the FDA published a proposed amendment to 21 CFRs 4 and 20 to harmonize with 1345-2016. So this particular ruling will affect not only medical devices, but also combination devices. The proposed change was open for public comment in May. The agency received about 69 different sources of respondents to questions, concerns about the changes to the regulation. And many of those 69 had multiple comments. So they've been busy addressing all of those comments and questions. And that has taken some time. So let's take a look at what has brought the FDA to this change. And part of the fact of the matter is that the quality system regulation was promulgated in 1996. So it's been quite a long time since the regulation had been updated, and the whole theater of quality management has gone through numbers of changes through different global communities, different regulatory jurisdictions, a lot more focus because of the standard ISO 1345 with the greater emphasis on on risk management. And I think that that has become very much aligned with the FDA's thinking on the direction that they wanted to take the regulation moving forward. And plus, they needed to have the regulation to become more aligned with more modern QMS thinking. So one of the questions has been, how is it going to look? And so many were asking, well, will this be a simple reprint of what the standard says? And it will not, unless something drastic changes between now and when the final draft is published. Their intention is to make a wholesale reference to ISO 1345. Of course, there will be additional requirements for record keeping and labeling controls. And some of those differences will be, there will still be references to 21 CFR 803, which is medical device reporting, 806 for corrections and removals, 807 for establishment registration, and also for device tracking in 21 CFR 821. So those will remain in place. So they will be additions to the requirements of ISO 13485. So a lot of it made us think, well, is this really just some shadow of what MDSAP has come to be? And I believe that to a degree it is, because MDSAP is constructed around ISO 1345. If you look at the MDSAP audit approach document, you can see how it is built along the spine of ISO 1345. And it just, it simply adds on to the different country-specific requirements of the 5 jurisdictions that are participating in MDSAP: Australia, Brazil, Canada, Japan, and the USA. So what about the QSR? Well, most of the requirements will be withdrawn. However, the scope and some of the definitions will remain. Only minimal references to specific requirements will remain. And then the CGMP requirements for combination products will largely not be impacted. So where is the agency in the process? Well, they have received all of the public comment. and they have spent this time since last May working through the different comments that have been presented by the commenters and stakeholders that responded to the initial announcement. They are currently composing the final draft. They are also working on the update of the QSIT. So the QSIT, as many of you are aware, the Quality System Inspectional Technique, was published during the same time as the establishment of the current QSR. And many of us got the little flip folder of QSIT plans for how the FDA was going to behave once they came on site. So that will be changing quite a bit because the approach will be more of a top-down approach with ISO 1345. And then the final draft will be going through a cycle of reviews. And this involves a lot of different departments within the agency. The Office of Management and Budget has a large role to play in this particular new draft of the QMSR. The Office of Regulatory Affairs, as you can imagine, has a large role. CBER and CEDAR also have large roles to play in this change. The Office of Chief Counsel, the Office of Policy, Legislation, and Internal Affairs. And any of these different departments within the agencies may have problems with the way that the final draft is written. And so it can go through a cycle of reviews, requested changes, then go back through again until all of the different departments agree that all of the different changes to the QMSR are agreeable and can be afforded. And then the QMSR will become law after final approval by the legislative branch. So, and I asked Captain Kim what the timeline would look like. And of course, she can't give us any sort of a definite timeline for when the QMSR will be finally written into law. But she does feel like that it will be sometime during 2024, and more than likely it will be the final draft will be approved before 2025. So I expect sometime during next year. Once it's approved, there will be a 2-year transition, as there is with most regulatory documents. And I believe that this will be one that will be able to see that timeline respected. And I know that in recent times, we've had a lot of changes that have had plans for transition, and not all of them have been able to have been met. And there are always circumstances that could throw something like this off and derail it. But in this case, I don't really expect it, because ISO 1345, as you can see from the respondents that are in the room, that most of us are there already. And so there's going to be some fraction of manufacturers who do not have ISO 1345 and have no intention to. They are only going to manufacture and distribute their devices in the United States. They don't have to meet ISO 1345. And so their desire to have the certificate is of less value. And I'm not sure that I always agree with that, and I'll tell you those reasons moving forward. But when you are inspected by the FDA, that of course will not mean that you meet those certification requirements and will not receive a certificate from the FDA. They are not in the certification business. They are only to make sure their job is to protect the public health. And that is what they will continue to do. But ISO 1345 certificates do a couple of things. It forces you into the mode of what the big establishment word of establishing a quality management system. And oftentimes, companies that are not under a certification body for their QMS and they're only participating in marketing and distribution of medical devices in the U.S. they'll grow their QMS and then be prepared for when the FDA comes in the next time. They've not kept up. They're not on schedule to be visited by their notified body or their certification body to be assessed every year to make sure that they're keeping up with changes and that they're meeting or they continue to make requirements. And so it's just like their quality management system becomes flabby and it's not operating, and it tends to go on the shelf and not be looked at until the FDA either shows up at their door or gives you a call and tells you they'll be there on Tuesday. Now, I believe that MDSAP certification really does help. And I'll tell you the reason why is that the FDA, along with the other 4 jurisdictions that participate in MDSAP, are well pleased that the auditing organizations are actively participating in face-to-face and working with manufacturers. It is actually a process that most manufacturers are finding to be more in line with what their thinking is of how the QMS should operate. In fact, I can remember when I first began auditing to the MDSAP requirements, I thought to myself and had other discussions with auditors that, this is really the way we should have been auditing all along. It's an auditing approach that makes sense, and it looks at the things that are important not only to the regulators but also to the manufacturers. And those of you who are participating in MDSAP, I know that you'll recognize that the MDSAP audit is a much more active audit than an ISO 1345 audit. It's when the audit team hits the ground and the opening meeting is finished, the audit really is off to the races, and we look at a lot of things, and you'll notice that almost everything that we look at is something that you think about every day, or you should be thinking about every day, and it helps you to meet those requirements. So, and when you do participate in MDSAP under with FDA in the United States included as one of your jurisdictions, then you will be meeting the requirements of the QMSR. So getting a jump on that will help you tremendously and keep you active and not let your QMS get flabby, as I said before. So let's have another poll question, please. Is your organization certified to MDSAP? Okay, so it looks like about half of the companies that are represented in the room are currently participating in MDSAP. That's a good number. That's an excellent number, in fact. Okay. So here's one of the biggest benefits, if I can help to convince 32% of you in the room currently. And that is that when you engage a recognized auditing organization like SGS to become certified under MDSAP within 3 days, or at least within 10 minutes of notifying SGS, you will be removed from the scheduled inspection list with the FDA. And there are a lot of manufacturers that recognize this as one of the greatest benefits of participating in MDSAP, as you can imagine. So as Captain Ken mentioned it to us one time, and that is that manufacturers tend to enjoy the company of their auditing organization much more than they do the FDA. And there are a lot of important reasons why. One of them is that when you have an auditing organization that certifies you under MDSAP, you know when we're coming. We don't come in by surprise. You know when we're leaving, and you know what we're going to look at. And so there's a tremendous benefit and sense of security to know that with a program that is that transparent, we are able to still perform an audit that digs deep enough to really determine whether you are meeting requirements or not, but it's much more predictable. And one of the other benefits is that you can also, in the same single audit, know that you're covering the requirements of multiple jurisdictions, which saves a tremendous amount on your own internal resources to be able to perform your preparations for an audit. And you don't have to host a lot of different jurisdictions to come in for inspections. Now, does it mean that the FDA will never come in? Of course not. If the FDA needs to come in for cause, they're going to come in. But your regular scheduled inspections will halt. That's a big benefit. So let's talk a little bit about what you should do now. And Captain Kim really wanted me to focus on this, and that is what she called the big deltas, or the big differences between the quality system regulation and what will be coming as the final draft of the quality system regulation, or the quality management system regulation, QMSR. Don't focus on the minutia of what would come with a comprehensive switchover. It's laborious, it's pushing a lot of paper, but rather focus on the three big differences, and those being risk management, feedback from monitoring and measurement and analysis in Clause 8 of the standard to the risk management system, and also quality planning. Risk management is one of the things that has been used in our industry for quite a long time, but really came to the forefront when the 2016 version of ISO 1345 was published. And in the quality system regulation, if you were to do a Control F search for the word risk, you would find it one time. And if you do the same thing using ISO 1345 in what I call the meat of the document, clauses 4 through 8, you would find that that the word risk comes in 14 times, and which is not only a lot more than the QSR, but it was also quite a bit more than it was in the 2013 version of ISO 1345. So it's a big deal. Fortunately, we have a really good tutor that we can use, and that's ISO 14971. We use that standard in every single audit. It's the application of risk management to medical devices, and I've always thought of it as a way to throw ropes around smoke. Risk, it seems to be such a difficult and nebulous entity that they now want us to reduce down to procedures, and which can be a very difficult task if you've not been taught and you have good understanding of what that standard means. And it does give you very good, effective tools for the management of risk. So the standard talks about risk management in different ways, and I would rather rather than looking at just the management of risk according to the risk standard, let's look at it where it needs to be applied. It asks for us to look at controls of risk that are proportional. And these come up in several different locations in the standard. And for instance, outsourced processes. And as you can imagine, for some of your own subcontracted processes, some of them are heavily laden with risk, and some of them are not. And so when we come in as an auditing body or an auditing organization, we don't prescribe how much control you should have. We say that you need to have controls that are proportional to the risk, and you are left to make that definition. But we want to understand how you've made that decision. For instance, a lot of times people will ask me, Tim, should I, and then they will finish their sentence. And then, well, really the answer to any should I question is, well, have you considered the risk? And I don't mean thought about it, but have you really considered the risk and how much control of risk you need to place into these different areas that are key to your industry and key to your business and key to the health and welfare of your devices, your patients, and your users of those devices. There should be proportional controls in software validation. One of them that is missed oftentimes is the effectiveness of your training programs. So there should be controls based upon risk on those trainings. The ones that have heavy risk should be scrutinized more heavily than those that are not. Your suppliers, your supplier corrective and preventive action requests, verification of purchased product certainly would have to have different extents of control applied to those devices and those subcontracted processes. Also in product realization, documented processes for managing risk, design and development inputs, the standard asks for those specifically there. And then in design changes, how do design changes affect product that is already out there? Did these design changes come as a corrective action, the result of a corrective action? All of these that have fed back into your risk management system from your measurement analysis and improvement processes. Excuse me. Another one that is important is the feedback to the risk management system. In 2016 of 1345 subclause 8.2.1, the information gathered in the feedback process shall serve as potential input into risk management for monitoring and maintaining the product requirements as well as the product realization for improvement processes. I always told clients that clause 8.4 monitoring and measurement was the most important clause in the standard, because really and truly, this is management's dashboard for seeing if the things that they're doing, the decisions that they're making, the resources that they're applying to their businesses are having a positive or a negative effect, and to look with those intently, and to have proactive arrangements for looking at these profile monitors for knowing if your QMS is being effective. So this is the second part that she asked that we emphasize in this little talk, that you take a look at those processes and make sure that those are in place and are effective, because when the FDA comes in to inspect you, that's one of the things they're going to want to see. So spend your time working on these processes as you move forward to the ultimate release of the QMSR. And the third one is planning. And this is one of the things that I find that manufacturers in the US struggle with as much as anything else. We know that risk management can be a difficult concept to grasp, but one of the things that we tend to fail at is in planning. And the standard does require that you do quality planning in your management systems, in product realization. And one of the key phrases that we tend to miss is planned results. Beginning with the end in mind, because if you know what your results are that you're planning for, then you'll be able to put resources in place that will require you to meet those planned results. Planning and management, there are requirements for QMS planning, and that's not only for the first time that you establish your quality management system, because I assume that most of you in the room have already done that, but when you have changes, when you add a location, when you add a process that is going to have some level of risk impact on your product and on your QMS processes, that you make plans for that. And not only that you make plans for that, but you make plans for that with planned results. Also, in design and development, quality planning is mentioned early in the design process in ISO 13485. Those planned results are going to include QMS effectiveness, pardon me, your validated processes, and process monitoring and measurement, which is also going to come under 8.2.1, in your feedback system for the improvement of your quality management system. All of these are key parts of what is going to be looked at by the regulators or the FDA as they come back in. When the FDA comes in to audit you, or to inspect you under ISO 1345, don't you think that it's going to be a different flavor of inspection from what you've had in the past? It will have a tremendous effect on what the QSET is going to bring as they walk through your front door. QMS planning, be sure to make sure that you've got quality objectives in place, including regulatory requirements, product requirements, that they are measurable and consistent with the quality policy. And then plan your QMS, including changes with planned results. Product realization planning is going to be based on risk. And you can see how risk weaves its tentacles into every corner of the QMS. I don't think that there is a process in ISO 1345 that is not going to have some element of risk. The planning process shall be consistent with the requirements of other processes in the QMS. So as you, as you continue to plan through your QMS, the establishment, the changes, make sure that those requirements stay consistent with your other processes. These plans need to determine what quality objectives and the requirements are for the product, required processes, documents, and resources, verification, validation, monitoring, and measurement, inspection, test, handling, storage, distribution, and traceability. All of these have impacts on planning for product realization. And then, of course, there's always planned results. Make sure that your product meets requirements. Then there's planning and design and development. As a means of control, this includes the stages of design and development, including design reviews, design verification and validation, transfers to manufacturing, responsibility and authority, and traceability of outputs to inputs, and of course resources, which is going to be a key issue with top management in any medical device organization. Then, after the release of the final draft, begin looking at the details of the new requirements. You will have already set into place the big pieces. And those, once they are in place, will allow you to then take a sane approach to the requirements that are going to be attached to the requirements of meeting ISO 1345, including labeling controls and the new records requirements and the applicable regulatory requirements with the United States. So this will be really the cherry on top of making the transition period work in your favor so that you're ready for when the FDA comes in. And let me say this again, I really and truly believe, and it's not because I want to put my hand in your pocket, it's also because we have found that the companies that are doing something proactive in what they are doing with regards to the requirements of 21 CFR 820, 21 CFR 04, that they are actively reviewed by an auditing organization that does this every day and can spot weaknesses, not so that we are in the business of catching you. I think you know which organizations are more in line with trying to catch you. What we're trying to do is say, let me just show you you're thin here. You have a problem here, or you have a nonconformity here. This is something that you must address in order to maintain your certification, in order to also meet the requirements of the jurisdictional requirements of any countries that you participate in or you legally market your devices within MDSAP. I really and truly believe that it is the most extensive and best design audit approaches for our industry. And I've looked at it for a long time. I'm not a very young guy. I've been around for a while. And this is indeed the best approach I've ever seen. So I invite you to have a look at it and consider it. So let's ask one final question. Are you interested in speaking with an SGS rep about ISO 1345 or MDSAP certification? I didn't want to present this just as a commercial for SGS, but to give you some information that I think you will find to be valuable in your preparation for the changeover to ISO 1345 with the FDA. So I think it's a good move by the agency, and so I believe that it's a good approach. So with that, I'm going to turn this back over to Cindy to wrap things up, and then we'll take a few questions as we have time.
Thank you, Gooch. That was an amazing bunch of information, very valuable, and I hope you guys really got a lot out of that. I know that I learned a lot today. Here's just a little bit of information about some training that we offer through the Academy. We do offer a modular training for ISO 13485 that days 1 and 2, module 1 are going to go through the standard requirements. Then day 3 covers internal auditor requirements, and day 4 will go through lead auditor, how to lead your team, how to delegate your team to different tasks and processes, etc. When you receive the PDF, you should be able to click through, if you're based in the US or Canada, to reach our website and learn more about that. And you can see there's our social media platforms. There's how you can reach Gooch or myself if you have any questions to follow up after the webinar. We're always here to provide any assistance that you might need. So if you guys have any questions, you can go ahead and type them in to the Q&A section in the platform. We do have a few minutes for some questions. So if anything wasn't clear, or if you want some more information, now's a good time to ask. Tim, we did have a question. If you could please revisit and clarify again, what is an SCAR?
A Supplier Corrective Action Request.
Perfect. And we do have a query. How does one become an MDSAP auditor?
Great question. So in order to be an auditor for an auditing organization, there are certain requirements that have been promulgated by the International Medical Device Regulatory Forum, the IMDRF. Those requirements are available online, and there are certain requirements in order to be considered as a candidate to be an MDSAP auditor. And then there are certain requirements that an auditing organization must provide for those potential auditors and under training and qualification. So, and one of the primary requirements is that you must have participated in the medical device industry in general for 4 years. There are certain reductions in those requirements for some individuals, depending on what it is that they do. If they also work for a regulatory agency. There is a requirement for a 4-year degree in science or in medicine or in engineering. But if you want to see all of those requirements, if you look for a document that its short name is N4, like Nancy 4, under the IMDRF, and that will that describes what all the requirements are for becoming an MDSAP auditor. Now, let me also say this. If I were to have an organization that was not MDSAP certified and needed to prepare for an MDSAP certification, or if I was going to be preparing for a FDA inspection under 13485, I would audit the MDSAP requirements, because that's going to cover all the requirements of ISO 1345 and the requirements for the FDA. And then I would take that and plug it into my internal audit program, because then you've got auditors internally that are trained to the requirements and can audit competently to those requirements. Good question. And also, SGS will be offering internal auditor training for MDSAP companies, and also training for how to implement MDSAP in your own organization. As a matter of fact, I believe I will be the trainer for that. And to help you get the meat and potatoes of how to do this. And that will benefit you greatly, not only for the preparation for MDSAP certification, but also for hosting an FDA inspector. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you know this, but FDA inspectors carry a card with the title investigator. I don't know exactly what that means, but I have a feeling that I do. But I think it's important that you know how to work with these individuals when they come on site. Good question.
Okay, great. Are there any expected revisions to ISO 13485 as these requirements join, and also considering that the last revision was in 2016?
No, there are. As a matter of fact, it's a discussion that comes up regularly, and the committees that prepare these standards, they continually look at ISO 1345 to make decisions on whether is it time yet, and for now they continue to say no. So the standard has had holes blown in it for so many years. I can remember back, many of you may have been around long enough to understand when I say the 4.x religion, which used to be ISO 1345 back in the day, and then it made a big change in 2013 and then in 2016, but it seems to have hit its stride in a standard that is that works well, not only for large organizations, small organizations, and globally it's accepted. So there's no rumor of changing the standard at this time.
All right. Our next question: does Canada require MedSAP or MDSAP for Class 1 medical devices?
Canada is the only jurisdiction that requires MDSAP for anything, but it does not require MDSAP certification for Class 1 devices in Canada. You are only required to hold a certificate to MDSAP for Class 2, 3, and 4 devices in Canada.
All right, thank you. Will QSIT go away or still be the method FDA follows for inspections?
It will be reworked. And that's part of what is being done now. So the quality system inspectional technique, if you, it was, we all went through that I can remember, but even back in 1997 when we had a 1-year moratorium, many of you may remember, on design controls because it was such a big change in the regulation that the FDA would come in and inspect you for a year and would write no non-conform, or they wouldn't enter an item on a Form 483 if you were not conforming to design controls at that time. And that was when the QSIT was developed, and it was the rule book that the FDA had written for itself in order to conduct inspections, and they still follow it. But it will be changed. There will be, I don't know if it'll be called the QSIT or not, but the approach to inspecting manufacturers will change under the new QMSR. Expect that.
All right. And we have another question. Will U.S. medical device manufacturers be required to adopt MDSAP if the 21 CFR 820 is replaced with ISO 13485?
No. The FDA does not recognize certificates in order to ensure that you have an effective quality management system. Our laws are constructed such that it works off of a system of inspections in order to maintain. There's always two portions to marketing authorization in just about any jurisdiction for a medical device, and that is a quality management system that is either audited or certified or inspected, and then the review of technical documentation to make sure the device is safe and effective. In the United States, we have the processes under 510K or PMA and others, many others now, in order to get access to the marketplace, but understand that the FDA will come in and inspect you, and they will come in and inspect you at will. But they will not recognize a certificate under MDSAP or ISO 13485 in order to lop off that one leg of that requirement for marketing authorization in the United States.
Great. Well,
Great
Tim,
question.
thank you so much. Everyone, thank you very much for being here with us today. We are at the top of the hour, just about. So thanks again. We will be sending you the email with a link to view this content again on demand. There's many other great sessions that are available on demand on our website, so you can feel free to view any of that content at your leisure. And we look forward to hearing from you with any questions. Feel free to reach out to us anytime. And thanks again. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks, everyone.